How's it going?
All right, so all good here on my end. Yeah, pleasure to be here today.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk to you about your background. So Daniel is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Connected and Automated Vehicles. You're welcome to go to our LinkedIn Journals page and see a bio from him there as well. And he's a professor of automated driving at Graz University of Technology in Austria, and also a director of Virtual Vehicle Center. So I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about some of your background, and definitely thank you for coming. But I want to see about your background and how you got into the field of automated and connected vehicles.
Yeah, so it's a couple of years ago when I really got the spirit to join this exciting society, and then actually it was after the DARPA challenge 2007. There was a bit of silence, but then in 2013, when NVIDIA joined this ecosystem, we had the Bertha Benz Mercedes challenge, the first Tesla autopilot. I got the feeling there is something moving, and from the viewpoint of a researcher, there are so many open questions, and they are still there. There are still challenges, and just looking back to what we had in 2014. Look at the predictions of those days, and now what we have in 2022 on the verge to 2023. It's different than what we expected, but of course it's good for us as a researcher.
No, that's interesting. How is it different from then versus now?
Yeah, so if you look at all those predictions some years ago, and I also supported those predictions in 2014, we talked about level 3, SAE level 3 in 2020, level 4, 2023, level 5, 2025 to 2026. Of course, now we learned a lot, we invested a lot, we spent a lot of money, industry, researchers all around the world. We achieved a lot, that's for sure, that's for granted. But we also learned technology cannot be, let's say, accelerated like we as a human want to have it and want to see it. And safety, it's all about safety in the end, and reliability. And we are not yet there, which is good for, let's say, for all the people, the engineers working in that field. Of course, it's not the best for those who spend the money and still want to see a return of invest, because it will take a little bit of time before we get it.
And so for those levels of autonomous vehicles, can you talk a little bit about that? And then I try to get back to our question.
Sure. Yeah, so for those, I guess many of the audience today is aware of those levels that have been introduced by SAE in 2014. There was a slight update in 2018 to make it a bit more clear to all the people out there. But we have 6 levels starting from 0 up to 5, where 0 up to 2 is where the human is in charge. Level 0 cars are something like you have blind spot warning or some warning, let's say, information. So we have many cars out there which are level 0. Level 2 cars are the most famous, or the first one actually was the Tesla car. So you have longitudinal and lateral control at once, so both is there. So ACC, adaptive cruise control, and lane centering, for instance, which is the basis for level 3, 4, and 5, of course. So the technology of level 2, from the, let's say, from implementing autonomous driving is there. Of course, safety is a different story, but from the driving point of view, it's level 2 car has it all. Also the sensors are not many, there's not a huge difference to level 3 or 4.
Right.
But the liability is a different thing, because the car is in charge for 3, 4, and 5. And if you look at nowadays predictions, level 5, which means the car, so you don't have any possibility to interact with the car anymore. No steering wheel, no pedals at all. That means the car is fully responsible for the driving task and for any situation, whatever weather is out there. If you drive in New York City or in Mumbai or in Tokyo or somewhere in Uruguay, I don't know. So the car is able to manage every situation, and that's just looking at 2022. We don't have the capabilities right now. Level 4 is basically just a limitation of level 5. So you just allow certain scenarios, like only on highways or only during daylight or something like up to, I don't know, 40 miles per hour, something like that. So you limit the scenarios basically.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so I guess I want to talk a little bit more about like your work with the journals and your work with your editorial board. And so for the people that might not know, how does an editorial board work, and how do you work with some of those individuals?
Yeah, so it's so I'm doing this fantastic job since 2018, which is really great experience, and just take the opportunity to thank Kimberly Martin for her support, for being always there whenever there is a tricky question. She's there, she is responding immediately, so that's great, and also the editorial team that is associated with our journal, with the Journal of Connected and Automated Vehicles. That is Colleen, that is Tom. We had different people over the years because there's always a bit of fluctuation for sure. But in the end, it's great. So the SAE support is fantastic, and the work that we are basically doing is we are getting a lot of submissions, which is very good. A lot of proposals for special issues because that field is really emerging. You see that there are so many people working on that field in different topics: perception, planning, actuation. And it's basically up to us to decide, is the topic really a hot topic? Do we get sufficient submissions for a special issue, for a regular issue? And once the papers are coming in, that's me and Terry. Terry is together with me also editor-in-chief. So he is he represents the industry while I'm representing the academic world. So we are taking care that we at least just take five days maximum to sort out if the paper is ready for review, and then it goes to our associate editors. And at this point, I also would like to thank our AEs, our associate editors, for their great job they're doing all the time, because it's a duty which is on top of your daily work, and we really appreciate that, the service you're doing for SAE and for the journal, and that it's great that we really try to keep the process and looking at the time very, very compact, so that authors always are aware where the paper is, at which stage, and when do we get, as an author, the response from the reviewers. And the associate editors, they are spreading it out, and that's sometimes tricky because reviewing is a bit of a work. It's on top of your daily business, and we really appreciate all the reviewers that we have in our journal, that they take the time, that they really comment the papers. And we actually need 3 reviews for each paper. Then we are working out, is this paper ready for publication, or do we need some revisions or not? So there are many people involved in the process. So from the author's point of view, you submit something, and at a certain point you get hopefully the acceptance. But in between, there are so many people involved, and thanks for all the people that are really spending time, which is usually during the weekends, in the evenings. Great job, everyone.
That's wonderful. Yes, thanks all who participate in that. So my next question is, what is your vision for this journal? So does that mean, like, what do you kind of view it as? How do you think about it, and what type of papers you might want to have in this journal? Yeah.
So the headline of the journal is pretty broad. It's all about connectivity and autonomy, and looking at let's say the daily business we have. We had a huge hype in autonomy. Many companies around the world spend a lot of money. The many institutions around the world, research institutions, spend a lot of time, still ongoing. But we also have to adapt to the let's say situation that it might take a bit longer than expected. It might, so you could actually replace might with it will take longer, and but it means for the research community there is stuff to do. There's research to do, and also the applications they actually changed over the last 5 years, which means we still need a lot of contributions from all of us around the world. How can we make certain parts of autonomy happen? That means level 5 might not be the scope anymore for now, but if we think about last mile delivery, shuttles at airports, let's say highway pilots that are really reliable, so comfort functions, and which is very important, which sometimes is a bit neglected, is because there are, of course, critical voices out there. Autonomy, forget about it. But what really happened over the last couple of years, since, let's say, since 2013, is that the active safety systems and the advanced driver assistance systems, so the ADAS world, they have really benefited and have advanced, which might not happen without the drive of autonomy. And so if you just compare nowadays level 2 cars with cars from 2010, there's a huge difference. They are much more reliable, and that's so collision avoidance is a great thing. Meanwhile, we still have road fatalities, but if you just look at the numbers in the US, in Europe, in Asia. On average, around the world, the numbers went down, and that's basically also thanks to the huge investment in autonomy over the years. So active safety, collision avoidance, and comfort functions, they are there. So that's definitely a benefit, which is there, return of investment.
Oh, so you're saying that people have seen less crashes and less, like a huge improvement in safety based off of this research. Okay, right. So there's
exactly
quantifiable data on that.
Exactly. I think that's the thing we also need to think in let's say in gray shades, not only put it to black and white. Autonomy, it's not there, so it failed. That would be the wrong approach. So we just need to figure out what happened over the last couple of years. Yeah. Thanks to all the investments all around the world from industry and the contributions from all the researchers around the world. And for the road traffic, it happened a lot.
Okay, well, that's some great insight. Is there any other insights that you want to share about the industry overall?
Yeah, we just want to, let's say, announce a little bit, or let's say the special issue on autonomous racing, which is also a bit of, let's say, a black and white story, because people, of course, say autonomous racing, but that's a boring thing. There's even no driver, no Lewis Hamilton driving around, no Sebastian Vettel, no other guys that are Verstappen, of course, and all the others, just a car driving around. What the hell is going on there? But let's keep it that way. So the special issue, and you're of course all invited to get this volume 5 first issue downloaded, which I did together with Johannes Beetz from, he was with TU Munich, then he, for a while, he was a postdoc fellow at Pittsburgh, Penn State University, and now he is an assistant professor back in Germany. So we were part of the Indianapolis Challenge, also the RoboRace series, and F110. So there are so many things out there. Of course, the one thing is to educate students, to train students, to practice students. But on a, let's say, on a bigger scale, don't forget looking at the history, all the big inventions, also in the automotive industry, where they actually came from. That actually is usually it's military, it's space technology, and it's racing technology. Because when it's working at the edge, where you have really, let's say, a very specific environment, and it's proven that it works there, then it's easier to accept it and to trust this technology. And that's exactly why we are doing autonomous racing. It's just to show the broad mass, if, let's say, autonomy works at high dynamics, high speeds, bad weather conditions, and it's still working, then of course it hopefully works at 65 miles per hour. So that should be the let's say the way back to the masses, to the mass production, to the high volume manufacturers.
Right. So it starts in racing, and then you can kind of commercialize it back to the regular vehicles. So we actually have a video of the autonomous racing grots. So this is Daniel's team. So if we could play this video of what does this actually look like?
Sorry, I think I'm having some technical difficulties with the video. As I'd mentioned in the handout section, these slides are shared there. Please feel free to check it out. We watched the video, I actually watched it right before this, and it was very interesting. For some reason, while presenting, it is not letting me. I do apologize for that, guys.
That doesn't matter at all. So the ARG, Autonomous Racing Grots, is just one team. So the MIT has a team, Carnegie Mellon, of course, then TU Munich, University of Pisa. So we have a team from India. So that's the fantastic thing also for the students to just learn different cultures, to come together. And in the end, it's a competition, of course. It's a lot of fun during the test preparation of the race, but in the end, when it comes down to the showdown, then we are all competitors. But it's great to see that there is this racing atmosphere, that everyone knows who is in competitions, and when it comes to the race, when everything counts, then everyone is an open opponent. That's the cool thing. But as I mentioned before, why we are doing that, it's actually like we know all those. The best example is the electronic stability program, the ESP, that has been invented in the 80s in Formula One, that nowadays everyone has that in the car, so it's just normal. And that's our vision from all the groups that I just mentioned before, that we actually support. It's just one piece of the game, one piece of the cake to support autonomy in that way.
So autonomous racing, so you would have a vehicle on the road or on a racetrack, and there would be nobody in there, and it would be driving by itself? Or is it sometimes maybe like a level 1, someone's in there, and then sometimes fully autonomous on a racetrack? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, so so there are different challenges out there. So it depends a little bit on the vehicle, but the original idea actually is that for all the teams, there's the same hardware, the same car, so the same powertrain. So it's just the same hardware, and then it's up to the teams to decide. So in the end, the software wins, but we are in the world of software-defined vehicles. That means who is doing the better code, the better localization, the better perception. That team actually will win, still being the fastest around, with the fastest lap times, of course. So it's still a racing competition.
Right.
And in the end, it's all about, let's say, the performance, the precision, and which turned out to be much more tricky than everyone thought some 4 years ago when this racing community started, is the wheel-to-wheel races. Just having one single car on a track is nice, but of course it's not the end of the story. And having multiple vehicles out there, multiple agents, this wheel-to-wheel racing that makes everything much more, let's say, funny for spectators is a critical thing, because we have higher speeds. We have, of course, there are no pedestrians, no bicyclists around, which is usually the tricky thing for the autonomy world. It's a bit more restricted in the operational design domain. But in the end, we have high dynamics, high speeds, and we still need to avoid crashes, of course. And usually it's done away. So I can just tell you what RoboRace did. RoboRace had a race driver for all the testing scenarios, just to avoid that if the code is not running, if the software is not running, just to catch the car and to avoid a crash. But once the code and let's say the software was basically validated and approved, then of course the driver went out of the car and the car drove by its own, or the car is driving by its own. Pretty much the same thing for the Indy Challenge. We just had last week another challenge for the Indianapolis racing competition that started in October 2021, where a couple of cars have been built. pretty much like the retro Indy cars, and that's an ongoing story because everyone is aware. So it's a huge fun for universities, for the students, and the other thing is, as I mentioned before, it helps the overall goal to achieve the overall goal to bring autonomy a bit more to the masses.
Right, that makes sense. So when you guys were out there working on these vehicles, mainly software, but did you guys run into any major setbacks? I know you talked about like catching the cars and it kind of went from like somebody in there to fully autonomous, but what were some of the setbacks that you guys had when you were designing these software and these other elements of the car?
Yeah, so in the end, it never works immediately. So that's for sure. So there are long nights, there are weekends in there, and the good thing is, and I think that applies for any team. Doesn't matter if it's MIT or Graz or Pisa or Munich. In the end, you have a team because you need to go through the good times and the bad times. In the end, only results count, and you see that let's say the inspiration and the motivation and the engagement that just increases. And of course, we had this 2 years of pandemic where no races. So all the races were basically remotely done. For RoboRace, it was that way that the cars were in Las Vegas, and all the teams were actually sitting at home or at university at home and just developing their software, putting it to the cloud. It has been downloaded in Las Vegas, put to the car, and then the first tests were actually started. You got all the videos, and you actually got a bit of a feeling what the car is doing with your software, with your genetics.
You had a connected and automated vehicle, right?
So they were online. Exactly, an online connection to the race control. So you were aware what happens to the car, and if the car went basically out of the track or is doing well, and that actually. So just looking before 2020, it was quite cool to have, as I said before, the team sitting together in under one big tent, and you actually you talk to everyone around. That has, of course, been different in 2020, 21, and also half of 2022. But it's luckily now changing, and that's one of the important things that people are meeting, and that's why we also decided with Johannes Beetz, let's go for a special issue for our journal, because just to show all the others that might not understand why racing, because does autonomous racing make sense? But what I tried to convey is it makes sense because just making the technology more reliable, more mature, showing the masses that if it works at high speeds, at high dynamics, it might work also at low speeds, at low dynamics.
Right. So it adds some.
There's a clear vision behind. Yeah.
Right. Adds a lot of confidence to the end user. So I'm assuming there's a lot of artificial intelligence in these vehicles. Is there anything that really stood out to you that you guys, some algorithm or something that was like the core part of your mission, or something you guys tried that was really exciting, or anything else about artificial intelligence you wanted to talk about here?
Yeah. So just before answering that, I just read the comment of Ralph, who is from the Netherlands. No, of course, Max will not lose his job, but it would be cool that Max supports anyway this kind of. I would say it's an addition. So the Formula One will definitely not be replaced by any of those autonomous challenges. It's more a student competition, but it would be fun, like. Lucas de Grassi did, so the Brazilian, I think he was very shortly in Formula One, then he is in Formula E right now. He also is supporting that kind of technology, because it's not about losing a job, and I think people like Max Verstappen could be a great addition to support this kind of autonomy. So it would be a great guy for supporting also our SAE journal, of course.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to answer some more questions, or I know we want to talk about AI. I think somebody here wanted to talk a little bit about V2X. I mean, AV is, we kind of understand the state of AV. How about like the connected side and, that aspect?
Yeah, it's a bit of a, like always, a chicken and egg situation. That means we have seen the ITS community, the Intelligent Transport Society, really advancing. Doesn't matter if you talk about 5G protocol or the Wi-Fi, so the 5.9 gigahertz. So the people call it this cooperative ITS, cooperative intelligent transport system. So where you have road units installed, which of course is a question of investment, because you need those roads and units installed there along the highway, along the interstate, that actually give the car information. In the car, you need an additional control unit, the so-called onboard unit, that gets the information and processes the information. Both approaches are valid. Both have their pros and cons. In the end, it's a bit of an let's say, or let's put it the other way. The automotive community started in, as I said before, in 2013, 14 in investing. And at those days, it was pretty clear we don't want to talk to the, let's say, to the infrastructure. It's all on board. Meanwhile, and that holds for 2022 is it's just too expensive. If you put all the sensors on board, and if you have, let's say, if you don't want to spend some $50,000 or more for a car, you won't be able to afford such an autonomous car. But because you, at a certain stage, you need you need an, let's say, a performance computing platform in there. LiDAR, yes or no, it depends. But for, let's say, urban driving, a LiDAR is pretty helpful for level 3 and 4. Tesla also needs to rediscuss that once they really want to go for level 3 and 4. Right now, as I said, it's a level 2 car because of liability issues. So it's just adds a lot of money on the car price if you just put it on the ego vehicle. And for that reason, there was a bit of a mind change over the last 3 years. Let's talk again to the infrastructure. Can we use information from roadside units, from sensors that are installed out there? In the end, it's a question of technology. What about the latencies? What kind of information can I really get from the infrastructure? Talking about safety critical topics, so that will never work. You actually, so we are still in a kind of a negotiation phase. There's the ITS community, the automotive community, and yeah, we are all accepting each other. How to find a way together.
Okay, so
it's my personal opinion, it makes sense, and that's why we also call our journal Connectivity and Autonomy, Connected Automated Vehicles. And for sure, it would be much easier if from today to tomorrow we just switch from today's situation to fully autonomous. Every single car is autonomous. Then, of course, connectivity will help and will work. But in the mixed traffic, it's a different story, and that makes it so that delays the process right now, of course. Yeah, and that's why we need to think about, let's say, yeah, no one wants to hear that, but separating autonomy in lanes, let's say in carpool, something like that. Otherwise, we will not proceed in the let's say in the traffic situation. For shuttles at airports or in let's say limited or controlled environments, different story. That will work. That will come. So that's pretty sure.
Right, so and for the integration overall, I could see that being
yeah.
Well, that's really great. I think I would like to get in another question about what type of submissions and how do you submit to your journal before we close out.
So of course there is the web interface, and we are definitely, as I said before, we are really taking care that every single submission is treated within 5 days, so that we trigger the process. We actually look forward to any contributions that somehow address the topic of autonomy and connectivity, not only limited because we are talking about vehicles, so it's not only cars, it's seal, that means sea, air, land, so it's all there. It's whenever, and of course multi-agent, so if you're collaborating We are also open for, let's say, for defense topics. It's much more important than ever in the world we are living right now. So defense and human protection is an important thing. Wherever autonomy and connectivity can help, that has to be, let's say, really addressed. And we are also looking for those kind of contributions. But also in the maritime environment, there are so many things to do underwater, submarine. There is a lot of work going on, and we are really looking forward. So don't think SAE is just cars, just automobiles, not at all. So it's connectivity and autonomy for, let's say, just making our society better, making our, let's say, our life better. And that's what our journal is about, that we start with the research work, and hopefully the technology readiness starts with a lower readiness level in our journal, but hopefully it's taken over by the industry and finally comes out as a product.
Okay, that's great. I guess that's all I had to say for this talk. I thank you so much, Daniel, for talking to us. I really appreciate your time, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'll hand it over to Shane now.
Yes, thank you, Daniel and Sarah. That was an awesome talk.
And I just got my nice. Is it visible?
Yeah, we see it.
just submit your work. It will be highly appreciated. And of course, if you're interested in becoming an associate editor or reviewer or proposing a special issue, for sure, be part of the game, be part of the process. We are really happy from the SAE perspective that once again, thanks to the SAE team that I'm working with, and all the, let's say, people that are involved in our journal.
Right. Thank you so much.